This is take two, Suzanne Carroll.
Recording.
There we go.
Hello, sister.
Hello again.
Here we are. We're back.
Excellent. I'm happy.
I'm happy to see you. I cannot even believe that we have not met in person.
Mm-hmm.
That all of our interactions in working with you with cannabinoid therapeutics has happened through telehealth.
Yes, it has. And it's all worked.
And it's all worked. So this is the hope we want to bring people. The other thing I want to start off with too is that you are a person that would least likely use cannabis. Would you agree?
Never in the world. Some days I still can't believe it. Like what it has done for me has just been absolutely amazing. You know, I can't even describe the difference in my life and my family's life since I've met you or not met you.
So let's start from the beginning. Remember, we were talking a little bit about, I don't think people even know what you have going on. So when I first met you, and you had told me that you had gotten your medical card, you had been to the dispensary, you got some edibles, but they sat in your refrigerator. You tried one, it didn't really work, and so you put it aside. And then your nephew, Sean Curley, hello. Sean Curley recommended that you contact us.
Yes, he did. So I did. And you have done some amazing things for me. And I know from some neighbors and friends that you've done amazing things for them as well.
Oh.
So I just can't even describe how grateful I am that my nephew kind of pushed me, took a little bit of a push, I'll admit, but you know, it was the best push ever. He's now my favorite nephew, as he knows. So for obvious reasons.
That's so wonderful. So your story as to what led you to cannabis, because when I met you, you were on a ton of pharmaceuticals and they weren't working.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to what brought you to get your medical card, the condition that you had.
Yep. Actually, several conditions. I mean, I don't know if you even know that I had a stroke where I was in a coma for 2 weeks. And before that, I had been diagnosed with MS. And I had had some kind of an incident because I was very unsteady. I walked with a walker. I taught school using my walker, which was kind of an interesting challenge. And then I had a stroke. And while I was in a coma at Mass General, my husband said to the doctor that was treating me, what will we do about her MS treatment? Because I have been giving myself an injection of Avonex every single Friday. I get home from school, I try to relax, I give myself my shot, and it made me sick until Sunday. I mean, like sick in bed. And I did that for 5.5 years. And they kept saying, well, you know, the side effects should lessen. They never did. And I get confused. There's so many things wrong with me. It's hard for me even to tell you.
Well, one of the things that really stuck out to me and what we worked on right away was you have this syndrome called CRPS, chronic regional pain syndrome, which is a devastating, debilitating illness, which completely, made you disabled and bedbound. You had told me that out of 24 hours, you were in bed for 20.
That's exactly right.
You are on multiple pharmaceuticals, including fentanyl.
Very, very high dose of fentanyl.
Just so people can know, what was the highest dose you were on? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. 200 micrograms.
So 200 micrograms of fentanyl, for those people that are new and watching, I used to do intensive care nursing and recovery room nursing. And basically 200 mics of fentanyl would be enough to do a surgery on a patient. So just imagine, so that was 200 micrograms a day.
Right.
That's a lot of fentanyl.
And the thing is, I was still in pain and I obviously couldn't increase my dose. And one of the things that happened is I originally had that in one arm, complex regional pain syndrome. I had it in one arm, but what they think can happen and does happen to me, apparently all of your limbs, the cells are in the same area of your brain. And therefore, in some cases, it can It started out in my right arm. And what I had done, I had fallen and I got tripped on the edge of the carpet and I reached up and grabbed the mantle. So my right arm rotated. So I broke my arm, dislocated my shoulder, I shattered my greater tubercle, and I shredded my brachial plexus in my right arm. So, okay, that was fine. Then I had my stroke, and when I first came out of my stroke, I had no pain in my right arm. But unfortunately, it gradually came back, and then eventually it actually traveled to all 4 limbs. So I actually still have it in all 4 limbs. And I had a neurotransmitter implanted in addition to the fentanyl. And when it was one arm, I got quite a bit of relief from it. But when it was trying to deal with 4 limbs, everything was a little bit different. Did not help as much. And there was, well, you know the condition. There's nothing,
Yes.
There's no cure.
So for our new viewers, there are people that are listening for the first time. So she had to have surgery to have this internal neurotransmitter signaling system put into her body. And the goal is, if you understand, when we talk about cannabinoid therapeutics, the endocannabinoid system is the largest neurotransmitter signaling system in our body that regulates all other organ systems. So this internal device was supposed to mimic or supposed to help to regulate, right, the other neurotransmitter signaling systems to help her body to not be in so much pain, right, to stimulate those other systems.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
So it was all limbs.
It was in all 4 limbs. And I've taken care of one other patient that has had this, and she's had tremendous results as well. And she's from another state. So your journey with cannabis, so you were suffering, you were in bed. I want to just go back to one quick thing too, because we were talking about, I was calling you Sister Suzanne, and you're married. So I think people need to know that you served the church.
Yeah.
And then so just talk about that story, because it's a love story, and then we'll get back to.
All right. Well, when I graduated from high school, I ended up going away to college for a year, and I don't know, I just had some issues. So I went and talked to my parish priest, and during the course of the conversation, he brought up being in the convent and sisterhood. So I thought about it a little bit, and I thought, not for me. Well, he called my mother, actually, and said, you know what, here's what she needs to go in the convent. Here's what she needs to do. My mother said to me, are you going in the convent? And I said, I don't know. So then I thought, well, might as well. So I actually was in the convent for 5.5 years. I was a sister of St. Joseph. I taught chemistry at Cathedral High School in Springfield. Let me just take a little drink.
Yep. I'm going to take a drink too. Here we go. Cheers. Cheers to Sister Suzanne and all of her accomplishments on her journey to health and wellness with cannabinoid therapeutics and all of the health and wellness tools that nourish our endocannabinoid system. This is to you.
Cheers.
Hear, hear. So you were a nun in the convent. You were teaching chemistry. You went to Boston College as well.
Yes. Well, I went to the Elms and got my bachelor's. Then I went to Worcester Polytechnic Institute in Worcester and got my master's in natural science. Then I ended up, long story, but I ended up at BC in the doctoral program, and eventually got my PhD in curriculum and instruction with a major in chemistry and a minor in computers, amazingly enough. So that was before all this happened.
Right.
So I taught school for 32 years. I have two grown children. So I did all the normal things after I left the convent, and I did stay in the convent for 5.5 years. And
Thank you for your service.
Yes. Well, sort of. Well, and then decided that it wasn't quite for me, which I should have made that decision before I went in, but that's okay. It formed me as a person.
Totally.
It's part of my life that I am still proud of. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of myself the day that I got my novice's veil, and with my 2 grandmothers, and it's displayed in the living room. The reason it's displayed is one day when the priest was here for a party, he was looking at my family photos, and I had told someone else that I had been looking for this picture of my two grandmothers and couldn't find it. So I had found it, so I brought it out, and the priest said to me, "Why is that not displayed with the rest of your family photos? That's who you are." And I said, "You know what? I said, I'd like it better if I could get myself taken out of the picture and just have my two grandmothers." And he said, "Don't ever do that." He said, "That picture is you. It deserves to be out with the rest of your family photos." So it's now on the shelf in my living room, and I just love it.
So what I would love to do is get a copy of that picture so we can put it with this video so people can see. You've had a very, very rich life. You've been through a lot. You've, experienced trauma. And what we call that is you've come out on the other side.
Yes, I have. With the smile. I love it. Absolutely love it. Now I can go out in my garden. I can work outside. My husband and I can go out to dinner again. I can go to family. I have a very large Irish Catholic family. I have 6 sisters and 3 brothers. So you can imagine how many family events there are. For the years that I had this, I have been suffering for almost 20 years.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God, I didn't know that. That's a long time.
When I first was diagnosed with MS. And, I was in a lot of pain, which is why I started on fentanyl. So that's how long I've been on fentanyl, with a gradually increasing dose. So you can imagine.
200 micrograms of fentanyl, which is a lot. So you started on your cannabis journey. So, we had a consultation with the Green Nurse Group. We started educating you and educating on different products and combinations and how to make it work. And your life started to improve because you came on our show a few months later. And I remember that we didn't have the video interview, but what you said on that show has changed the perception of so many different people. And truly, what is a miracle? A miracle is a change of perception. And so you're sharing your story is going to help so many different people, because it helped my mother to decrease the stigma. My mother's completely strict Irish Catholic. She wrote me out of her will.
Right. Yeah. I can literally. Yep. Get it.
And she heard your story and she called me up and she said, "Sherry, what's the gateway?" So we started her on topicals, and we just started the progress. And it took about 6 months to get her fully on cannabis, but it's improved the quality of her life. And now I'm back in the will.
Well, that's good. I'm happy that I got you back in.
Yes, I'm back in. I'm in like Flynn.
Excellent, excellent.
Yes.
But, my family still can't believe my doctors can't believe it. They just cannot believe that I actually, with all the things, and I haven't even mentioned the osteoporosis, all the other things that I have. And, one of the most important things to me is you not only told me what to take and how to take it, but why.
There you go.
And as a chemistry person, I absolutely needed to know that.
Physiology, the physiology behind, how the plant works in the body, the different methods of administration, how it works on all different systems at the same time, and how you can take it different ways to make it work better, and other things that you can do in your life to actually make the cannabis work better, which I think is so fascinating. So let's talk about your progression, because now you're off of all fentanyl. As of, you told me, I think it was January 1st, no fentanyl?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yes, I made up my mind. And, my doctor had said to me, whenever you feel you're ready. So I decided, new year, here I go. I'm going to do this. I'm all in. So it did take me 18 months to get off fentanyl.
And you did it slowly. So let's talk about how you did that, because there's a lot of people that are on a lot of narcotics and that are very afraid to come off. I was on over 15 pharmaceuticals at one point. It took me 2 years to get off of all of them. And it was a process, and people are afraid, and which I don't blame them, because I'll tell you, the fear around coming off of pharmaceuticals is this. The fear is that you're going to feel worse.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I'm here to tell you that cannabis bridges the gap from what you're not getting from traditional medicine, and will allow you, with the guidance of your physician, to come off of pharmaceuticals if you so choose. Right? So we always, when we're working with patients, it's not about me, it's about you. What do you want? And that's how we work with patients. So I was so thrilled when you told me, one day you go, Sherry, I'm going to start working on coming off of those things. And
it was so exciting for me. As I said, it has changed my life. And I kept thinking, my fear was that as I decreased my fentanyl, I would have to, continually increase my medical marijuana, which did not happen, as you know.
So that's important for people to hear. I'm going to repeat it. So like I said, everyone's different. Everyone has different endocannabinoid systems, but Suzanne was actually doing all the recommendations, not just the cannabis, but all of the other activities that was helping to increase her endocannabinoid tone. So when she made the dose adjustment of decreasing her pharmaceutical intake, she didn't need to increase her cannabis use because her system was already upregulated, right? So, and I just find that so fascinating. So also for people that are coming off of pharmaceuticals, because this is very fresh for you, what did it feel like? Because I know some days it could have been hard.
There were days that I thought, oh, I don't think I can do this, that maybe I'll just use a little bit more, or maybe I'll just slow it down a little bit. But I followed my doctor's recommendation, and he went down percentage-wise. So I went from like 100 to one. I wore 200 microgram patches. So we gradually decreased. So we had 150. And then we went to, 125. So we went down very, very gradually, which is why it took me 18 months. But in the end, it all worked out.
It's so worked out. It's so amazing.
Which is an understatement.
So let's compare really quickly for our viewers what your life was before you started cannabis and what it is today.
I think I've told you that every single day I fought to stay up at least till noontime. I get up in the morning. I go to morning mass. I set up for the mass. I'm the altar server. Sometimes I'm also the lector. I do whatever I have to do. I do that. We say the rosary. Then I came home and I would do every bit of my housework in the morning because I knew that by noontime I was not going to be able to do it anymore. So I went back to bed. I get up around dinner time, and after my husband got dinner, I'd get up and, I'd go right back to bed as soon as I could. I could not wait to get back in the horizontal position. It was just absolutely unbearable. I did not have the strength to hold my body upright. And, now I go out, I work in my yard. I've got
What is your day like now? So your day like before was you just did to church, you did a few things in the morning, and then you were in bed from noon until the next morning. So now, what does your day look like?
Totally different. Well, as I said, I'm still up. Look at me.
I know.
And other people, that's not really maybe all that exciting, but it is for me because in the past I would have been unable to do anything past noontime, which is I know it's hard to believe. And, people would think, oh, you just need a nap. That's not what it was. No. I did not need a nap. I just couldn't hold my body upright any longer. The pain was unbearable. Anything I went to, it was like, try to be sociable. I'm going to just.
It's okay. And I'm just going to pipe in because I know exactly what you went through because before cannabis came into my life, I was bedbound, literally sick and suffering in chronic pain. The depression, the anxiety, the agoraphobia, the panic, it was just too much. And people, the same thing is that the glaring pain serves no biological protective functioning in our body whatsoever. So the bottom line was that, your quality of your life was horrible before you started cannabis. And then when you started it, it started to gradually improve. You were bridging the gap from what you weren't getting from traditional medicine. You started to come off the fentanyl. You didn't have to increase your doses, right? And slowly but surely, the quality of your life improved. So now when you get up in the morning, you still do your regular morning routine, except for that you don't go back to bed at noon.
And, it's very hard. Mornings, I have a hard time like slowing down because in my mind, I've still got to get everything done in the morning. So I find it very difficult to pace myself. I say, okay, now I have to force myself, like, it's okay. I could sit down and read the newspaper if I wanted, because really I don't have to go back to bed. I don't have to do all my laundry in the morning. It's okay if I don't have it done, but it's very, very difficult for me still to convince myself that I have the leeway, that I can read a book, I can sit down and knit, I sew. For example, this morning, I worked on making face masks.
Oh, for the COVID-19.
Absolutely. I have made dozens and dozens and dozens. And in the past, the woman who asked me to do it would never have asked me. She's somebody that I know from church who had a connection with UMass Memorial, and they needed masks desperately. And so she called and she said, could you? And I could, of course. So I have made dozens and dozens and dozens of face masks. And you see, in the past, I would not have been able to do that because I only had room for what absolutely had to be done.
Right.
So I didn't have the afternoon.
Yep. So when people are in chronic pain like that, it's about preservation of energy. Really.
Yep.
We call it the spoon theory. You have 9 spoons, or everyone has only a certain amount of spoons, and each spoon accommodates an activity. And when you've given out all those spoons, you're done.
And, it's not like you can save them and say, well, like tomorrow I really wanted this. You can't. It's not like you can save it in the bank. Once the day is over, you can't save up. And that's what people have a hard time understanding. It's like, well, lie down in the morning and we'll do this in the afternoon. That's not how it works. No. Your body makes the decision for you. And it's almost impossible to be sociable when you're in pain.
It is. I totally remember my experience is that I didn't want to be around anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was depressed. I felt like I was a burden. And I felt like, I'm going to tell you, a big lump of nothing. That's how I felt.
I do. You don't have to convince me. I used to have to try to say to my husband, like, you go to the wedding. It's okay. And then he would either not go or, go by himself and feel like, I'm only half there. So it was painful knowing what my condition did to my family.
And that's the part that's really important, is that when people are watching this, you need to understand, like with chronic debilitating illnesses and chronic pain, little things like being able to go to the grocery store, go pick up your own prescription, go watch your child's baseball game, go to a family party, go out to dinner, doing things that normal people take for granted.
Absolutely. Yep. You just can't do any of those things.
And these are big things for us. Big, huge, giant things, because we never thought we would be able to do them again.
Oh, absolutely. Survival before was, minimum. Any little bit that every once in a while, somebody would have like something in the morning. And my problem is I don't live close to my family. So therefore, by the time they live in Western Mass, most of them, by the time I got to the function, I was too tired to even go. Used to be like, where can she lie down for a while? How can you get out? So it was not worth going.
No, I hear you.
To take the energy, I didn't have enough energy to want to go. Yeah. Sometimes I would force myself, but it was never really enjoyable.
Well, you just think too about the energy exertion that it even takes to get ready.
Not worth it.
People take that for granted. Taking a shower, washing your hair, like all of that stuff takes a ton of energy
that you don't have when you're in chronic pain.
You don't have it. My mother said it most beautifully, because I had her on my show. She came out of the cannabis closet when she wrote me back into the will, and she started having like amazing results. And when she came onto the show, her number one statement was this: I cannot believe how good cannabis makes me feel, and I'm not high.
That's what people have to understand. I never have had a single bit of feeling, and no one has ever thought, oh, look at her. It doesn't happen. It gives you back a normal life, which you thought you were never, ever going to have again.
So,
I have to tell you that I lecture all the time at Mass. I've had people that I don't know come up and say to me, what happened to you? You stand upright, your voice is different, just watching your face, it's like you're a different person. I tell everybody, because really all I can think of is, if this has helped me, if what has happened to me can help one other person, then I'm happy sharing. I tell everybody.
Your share has relieved the suffering of my mother.
I'm
has
so,
allowed her to really change her perception around this plant,
mhm,
to have an understanding. And her comment to me about feeling good and not being high was so profound. And the reason
mhm,
why it was so profound is because we're stuck on language, right? The language of what does it mean to be high? So I said, Mom, if you're not high and you feel good, what does it mean to feel good and not
mhm,
be high? And so she described it perfectly. She says, the pain isn't glaring in my face, it's background noise. I'm
mhm,
sleeping better. I have less anxiety. I'm less depressed about my problems. And
mhm,
every now and then I can have a little bit more energy to do the things that I wasn't able to do.
mhm, yeah,
And so I said, so cannabis is helping you to live your best life, correct? And she goes, absolutely.
absolutely. I'm in agreement totally.
Yeah. So it's interesting, the endocannabinoid system, one of the things that we educate on is every single thing that we tell our patients to do as medical providers either supports that system or doesn't support that system. So the education around cannabinoid therapeutics not only resides in the plant itself, but also resides in all of the other health and wellness activities that you can do to upregulate that system that's
Mhm,
going to make the plant that you take work better.
yeah.
It's
It's
pretty
just too
fascinating.
bad that it's got such a, bad reputation.
I
That's
know.
not the plant's fault.
It's not,
That's our fault.
it's our fault.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, God made the plant. He intended it to be used appropriately. And through you, I am using it appropriately. And I thank God every day that this has happened to me. I can't even tell you.
Oh, so I'm going to ask just a couple more questions.
Yeah.
So for people that are new in exploring cannabis for the first time,
Mhm.
what advice would you give them?
To trust you.
Oh,
That
thank you.
would be number one, because really, I am not a dumb person. I could never have learned what I have learned from you. It would have taken me forever. I never, ever would have come to the point where I would say, okay, this is how I'm going to take this. I had no idea. So my gummies were sat there forever. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. And so the part that's cool too is that that's why I developed the Green Nurse Group, because it took me, you ready, 2 years to figure out how to make cannabis work for me below the threshold so I wasn't impaired or high, as they call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And CBD was the huge game changer. So I founded the Green Nurse Group upon the premise that, being a disabled nurse, not being able to work in the institutions anymore that I used to do, is that if I can help someone relieve suffering and improve their quality of life through educating on cannabis, and if I can get them comfortable in less than 2 years, then I've done a good job.
You have done an excellent job, and you know how many people I tell, everybody I meet, anybody who will listen, I tell my neighbors. Well, remember the day that I called you and you didn't answer? You called me back like 10 minutes later and you said, I was talking to your neighbor. You remember that?
I do remember, and he's doing really well.
Oh, and he's grateful because he is a veteran.
I
And
talk to them monthly. I talk to both the wife and I talk to both of them, and they're very, very happy.
mhm,
He's having tremendous results,
yes, he is.
and
Yeah, see him out on his tractor in the yard,
oh, oh my
out
God.
mowing his lawn. He's,
Oh,
blowing the leaves. I just saw him this morning. He was out.
that's so wonderful.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
wonderful. So I want to kind of end with a little spiritual, religious type of spin on things, about cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And, because a lot of, a lot of people are worried and nervous that it's a sin.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Oh,
what
I
I
know.
mean? So,
Oh, yeah.
so what would you say to them? Is say, sister, I'm a strict Irish Catholic. What would Jesus say about me using this cannabis?
Jesus would say, you know what? I made this plant to be used and use it appropriately. I made it for you. And I say, thank God every day.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Mm-hmm.
So Suzanne, is there anything else you would like our viewers to know?
I would like them to know that going through, I have never, ever tried to get in touch with you and not gotten you. You have helped me so much. And the other thing is, I think it's important, is that, and you mentioned this a long time ago, that it's important that you get your supply consistently in the same way. so that you have the same provider and you know that every single time what you take is the same thing as what you took the last time. So really, to go through you, to me, it's a no, like, why wouldn't you?
Oh, so cute.
And you know what bothers me? That because insurance does not compensate in any way. It just isn't fair that some people can afford to do this and some can't. And you have made this manageable for me, and I thank you every single day for it.
Oh, you're welcome. And also too, with the Green Nurse Group, we are a nonprofit whole health consulting agency. We do sliding scale for veterans. We do sliding scale for people that have financial hardship. And so we generally don't turn anyone away. We don't,
Right. And so I tell everybody about you.
Yeah. So thank you. So thank you so much for joining us. Your story.
I'm going to hold you to a visit.
I am coming for a visit. Green Nurse on the go.
That's the price you're going to pay for this. You have to come and visit me.
I
Come
promise.
And see my flowers, see my garden, have some strawberries.
I'd love to. That would be wonderful. And we can pray together.
Absolutely. I'm going to hold you to it.
Okay. That sounds wonderful. So Thank you so much for joining us. Your story is going to help so many people. I am forever grateful that you opened up your heart and your life and to share it with others. And I'm going to end the show like I always end, is remember, everybody, what it's all about truly. It's about living your best life.
Excellent. I'll talk to you soon.
Let me just turn this off. Hold on.
All right. Yeah.